What is up, everybody? Joe Quill's here with you. It is Tuesday night, another edition of the Joe Quill Show. And breaking news, it's effing hot out. I think I saw today it was the hottest May day, May high temperature ever in the city of Philadelphia. I believe that was the case. Um, and just checking just to make sure here, because I did see it. Uh, Actually, I think it was like record high temperature from, well, Channel 10 said it was record high of 98 going back to 1967. Um, okay, 6 ABC. May Scorcher. Whoops. Damn it. Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. Philadelphia sets record for hottest May day on record. Take a look at the numbers again. Yeah, it was 98 degrees today. So it was damn hot today. I did not go anywhere today. Well, I went as far as the dumpster in the parking lot because I had a bag of trash to take out, and I was regretting that. But wasn't that humid out? At least not to me. But then again, I was just running door to door to um, door to the dumpster, and then in the side door. So, but we are going to get a major break here, and let me tell you something. And I think we're going to have this here. I really think that we are going to have, um, we're going to have people walking around Philadelphia like it's winter. Now, I wish I could show you my phone. I probably could if I had it hooked up to the phone, had hooked up to the computer or whatever, but I'm not going to. Or I send an email to myself to share it, but I'm not going to do that either. Um, but um, it's supposed to be 92 tomorrow, but the storms are going to hit about 6 o'clock. Okay. But it's only going to be 68 on Thursday. It's going to be raining. It's going to rain on Friday, 64. Saturday, only 57. By the time Saturday comes around, everybody's going to be complaining and acting like we never had these temperatures. And it's, it's going to be like, it's kind of like when I had to go downtown to work pre-pandemic, and you get to like the beginning of October and it's like 55, 60 degrees out, and you have a bunch of people who are dressed like it's the dead of winter. It's like, people, I'm still wearing shorts here. It's not that cold yet, but some people, they probably have their heat in the winter up to 93 in their apartments or houses and stuff, and they're wondering why they don't have any money for their bills and stuff. It's because you're not realizing. Like, for example, I want to turn this damn thing off, and thankfully I will be tomorrow night, hopefully sometime. So, but yeah, so it's uh, going to be a little chilly here after we get through. So it's going to feel a little extra chilly because we're just getting used to these extreme temperatures that we've had here. Probably going to have a long summer here in Philadelphia and all up and down the eastern seaboard, just like it is every year anymore. But hope everybody didn't sweat too much there. But if you did, hopefully you lost a couple of pounds, especially if you're trying to lose weight. Phillies lost tonight 4-1. That popped up there. I'm kind of keeping an eye on Knicks and Cavaliers. Knicks are down 2 at the half, 48-46. Um, a little bit of, you get into that situation of rust versus rest here. So it's like, yeah, could Cleveland have had an extra day off or two? Yeah, sure. But the Knicks, they hadn't played in over a week since they demolished the Sixers. But it is what it is. But things look interesting right now, and and the one thing I will say about the Knicks is they got to lose a game sometime, right? At least that's just my opinion. But coming up on the show tonight, um, we have an update on the we have an update on the um, well, first of all, we have a coach that was fired today. Well, I don't know if we can call it a firing or mutual decision, or whatever, but an NBA coach is out. Rashee Rice, go directly to jail, did not collect $200. Jackson Smith and Jigba was disrespected. And I'd probably be pissed too, but yeah, I probably would also realize after a while, yeah, that's probably some trophy that was made in some third world country. And an octogenarian athlete, a very famous one, got their degree over the weekend. I'll tell you who and the whole philosophy behind it, and all that and more. So, and if anything pops up between now and then, we'll do that as well. I'm trying to get my TV because I got too much noise in the background here. Well, since the remote's not really working because um, also it's election day here in Pennsylvania, and I do have a tradition. I do have a tradition when there's a race, when there is a race that does not have a an actual battle. It's an unimposed race. What I'd like to do is I like to put in some different names, so to speak, so that you get somebody looking and they're actually reading this because I don't think they actually read it. They just put it in and scan it, and that's the end of it. So the one thing I do, and I didn't, and unfortunately I forgot. So I got to give myself one of those, and this is something Mike and I joke about all the time. So first of all, I gotta say, because I did not take the pictures of the names I added to the ballot this year in these unopposed races. Now, mind you, this is why mail-in voting is such a great thing. Because, and thank you, China, for releasing COVID all around the world. Because I can actually go in here. I get my ballot like 6 weeks beforehand or whatever it was. It sat right over here on my desk over here on the side. By the way, I'm going to be moving things around tomorrow. So who knows what this is going to look like on Thursday. But I had my ballot, and I'm like, oh shit, I got to get this in. And the thing is, the way that, at least what they do in the city of Philadelphia, they actually, and I think it's probably the state, but the city obviously processes it because I'm in the city of Philadelphia. So I got the alert. Oh, we received your ballot. I'm like, damn! I just walked to the post office yesterday. Well, when I opened the email on Saturday. Um, so I ended up looking, and we got it. And they got a couple of names that they're going to be cracking up with. So, uh, you know, so. But the thing is, I'd be too much. I'd be, I'd be too scared to put in there Amanda Hugging Kiss, uh, Shay Vercooter, uh, Dixon My Ass, names like that, because they'd be like, "Hey, motherfucker, you put these names in, blah 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 blah." Well, they actually got to come to the fort of this apartment and find me. They'll find me. But it'll just take a little while. But, but I don't do that. You know, like the thing is, some people will end up doing that on a ballot for a position where it is a actual contested election. Never do that. Even if it's, and I know we're getting into politics, and I say we don't talk politics, but I think this is a workaround because we're not talking policy. We're not talking about what the right says, what the left says, what the moderates say, what extreme this, extreme that say. We're not into that type of politics. We're just into what to do in a ballot situation. What I would say, and I've been doing it a lot lately, maybe the last 10, 12, 14 years. Instead of voting for the best person for the job in a lot of these races, a lot of these elections, I'm actually voting for who is less of a crumb bum. Whoever makes me cringe least. Something like that. But that's what I would say. Vote for the person that makes you cringe least, as opposed to putting in there Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, hey, would you blow me? Stuff like that. Because the one thing is that about me. And for those that are watching on the different platforms, and you're just stumbling by on a Tuesday night, or you're just watching this after the fact, I like to have fun. I like to joke around. And my whole philosophy in telling a joke is a groan is as good as a laugh. Why is that? Because a groan means you've got the joke. As bad as it is, you got where I was going with the joke, whether it's a dad joke or just some play on words or something like that. So I will say this. The worst thing, in my opinion, is to tell a joke, and I mean, even a boo would be okay with me because you got the joke, as bad as it is. But when you sit there and you don't react, that's my sign. But I can imagine whoever opened my ballot, even though you just have a couple of referendum questions in Philadelphia, at least my section of Philadelphia, because all the other races were unopposed. And I asked Mike, how you vote by mail? He gave me his answer. I said, is your ballot the same thing? Because I think one or two ballots in this area of the state. I think there's one congressional district which is up for grabs for the Democratic primary. But other than that, there really wasn't much contention or, you know, any contested races. And, some years you get that. Like, for example, uh, next year is, I never know. I can't keep track. I know 28 is the presidency. 26 is the governor of Pennsylvania. I think next year is the mayor. Yeah, it has to be because no, no, whatever. I can't keep track anymore. It's those odd numbers years that throw me for a loop. But lesson from yours truly is never vote for Donald Duck on a contested race. Vote for the person that makes you cringe the least or whatever. You know. So that's what I would say. But enough about that. So and I kind of miss working in Chinatown as well because I'd be joking around saying, I got a proposition by a Chinese lady, huh? She said, "You want to get raid? Raid? What?" Then you put two and two together. Like, get out of here. But enough about that. But um, I had my stories ready to go, and then all of a sudden, I have a couple more stories to talk about here. Um, well, one of them I used better judgment only because I thought it was more fitting and all that. But this came down the other day, and this came out a couple of hours ago, and I don't know. I do not think Jason Kidd was what I call Kaplered. Now, what do I mean by that? In this, when he was with the Phillies in 2018 and 2019, after the 2019 season, they let him sit there and made him think he's coming back next year, the next season. And then all of a sudden, about 2-3 weeks later, the Phillies announced we have fired Gabe Kapler. Now, meanwhile, you're watching the final game of the 2019 season, and John Middleton, the main figurehead of the Phillies, because it's actually a bunch of owners, but he's the CEO or whatever title he has. He had a long conversation with Gabe Kapler when Gabe Kapler was in the edge of the dugout in the manager's area, and John Middleton was peeking over from the edge of the Diamond Club or whatever they call that area of the stadium this week. I was like, yeah, he's basically telling him right then and there he's fired. And then we're waiting. We're waiting a couple hours. We wait another day. We wait another day. I was like, I guess he's. But the Phillies wanted Joe Girardi, and the Phillies didn't respond to him. And that led to Rob Thompson. He took the Phillies to a World Series, dropped the interim tag before the start of the World Series. And now this year, they let go Rob Thompson. They put Don Mattingly as the manager as an interim basis. Now, I think the difference here is I really think Don Mattingly's one and done. Even if they win the World Series, even if they go 3-4-4 or 2-3-4-4, they win all games and not lose a playoff game, he's not coming back. I think the only reason why he's in Philadelphia is because his son is the general manager. And granted, now the general manager job has evolved or devolved over time, where instead of making the moves, you're now just sitting there crunching numbers with the analytics team and rubbing one out or whatever. But But in this case here with Jason Kidd, the season was over about a month ago. And I don't think he was caplered. I think he wanted additional responsibilities with the team. Dallas wouldn't give it to him. He's talking to the owner or whatever high executive above the guy they just hired, and he said, let me go. And the thing is, his job was probably secure, even though he had a new guy above him making the decisions. So Jason Kidd's out as the head coach of Dallas Mavericks after 5 seasons in what the team described as a mutual decision earlier tonight. Okay. I don't, I think the worst thing to do is you just fire somebody on the spot. Now, if you're going to fire somebody on the spot for doing something that, if you're just going to fire somebody like that, like weeks after a season is over, it better be for cause. Like Bobby Petrino had an affair with his secretary, and they weren't truthful in the investigation of the motorcycle accident he had and other stuff like that. The ripple effect, and they just said, bye-bye, with cause, you're not getting paid. So a lot of what you see, I would say about 99.9% of the firings or dismissals or coaching changes are where the coach that leaves is going to get paid. You see it a little bit more in college, but the college coaches, they will sue every once in a while because what I did was violation of this and that, or but like there was a coach I think at Kansas State who was fired with cause because he was bad mouthing the school. Well, you can say First Amendment rights, but you agreed to this code of conduct. So it's like 6 of one, a half dozen of another. But so Jason Kidd has 4 years left on his contract, worth more than $40 million. Now, the Mavericks governor, Patrick Dumont, because remember, Mark Cuban sold most of the team. So he sold the team, most of it. So Patrick Dumont, who extended the contract during the finals run, and then again before last season after the Mavs declined the New York Knicks' request to interview him, gave new president Masai Ujiri full authorization to determine the head coach's future with the franchise. So from what I'm looking at here from this, the new president's past history, I don't think it has anything to do with I'm just getting rid of him, and that's it. It has nothing to do with that. I think it's more on Jason Kidd's side where he wanted additional responsibility, and almost like Doug Peterson. Like Doug Peterson, if it's true he wanted more say in the team decisions, you don't ask for it after a 4-12-1 season or 4-11-1, because I think they only played 16 games that year. But you get the idea. If you're going to ask for additional responsibility and stuff like that, you're going to have ask for it when you go 13-3 and make it to the Super Bowl, not when you're 4-12 or 4-11-1, like and I'm using Doug Peterson because, I mean, now granted, we don't know the exact. I mean, we don't know exactly what exactly happened to Doug Peterson, but that's the rumor, and if that's the case, then so be it. Excuse me for 1 second. Sorry about that. So I will say this. It looks like he wanted more responsibility. They weren't going to give it to him. They wanted him to stay as a coach. He said, basically, probably said, I'm out of here. So Ujiri said in a statement, as we evaluate the future of our basketball program, we believe this is the right moment for a new direction for our team. We have high expectations for this franchise and a responsibility to build a basketball organization capable of sustaining championship contention. Now, the one thing is, if you think about it, the last guy, Nico Harrison, I think it was, he traded Luka Doncic. So you do have, you probably say, well, if you're going to fire him and do whatever, I want that position. Now, was that position was to move up and not coach anymore? Who knows? But either way, it seems like he wanted more, and it seems like a mutual decision, which is more of a resignation than a firing. So Ujiri said, we will conduct a thorough discipline search for our next head coach and continue to evaluate our entire basketball operations staff to ensure we compete at the standard Mavs fans expect and deserve. So, typical speak. So, Kidd expressed a desire to be promoted to president of basketball operations after general manager Nico Harrison was fired in November. But Dumont informed Kidd months ago he wouldn't be considered for the front office. So not even as general manager, he wasn't getting any additional responsibility. Kidd was also kept out of the loop in the process that resulted in Ujiri's hiring, according to sources. Now, this part here, if everything you believe here is true with the sources and what Ujiri said a couple of weeks ago and what he said over here, during his May 5th introductory news conference, Ujiri was non-committal when asking whether Kidd would continue as the Mavs coach, although Ujiri noted that he kept George Karl in Denver and Dwayne Casey in Toronto when he began his previous 2 stints as the franchise's lead basketball executive. Because the thing is, this is a situation where if a new guy comes in, he has the right to bring in his own guys. And that's probably the only situation where I would say it's okay to Kapler somebody, as I like to call it. But that isn't necessarily the case. But I think kid didn't like being passed over. He didn't like how he was being treated. He said, I'm out. Let's make it a mutual decision. Let's make sure I get paid. All that stuff. Um, so Ujiri said he's done a great job, but we're going back at this thing from head to toe. That's the right way to look at an organization, evaluate it in every single way we can. So basically, he's doing a an audit on the whole organization because he wants to make sure he makes his team a winning franchise because that's his job. And a lot of times when somebody gets a position that you want, and if everything that they said is true here, kid was kept out of the loop in the process, yeah, there's probably some bad blood somewhere along the way. So yeah, I can see why let's make a mutual decision and move on. And probably, I'm sure Jason Kidd probably said a couple of things that was not professional as well. MF this, MF that, all that stuff. But I'm sure that probably happened. But so Kidd went 205 and 205 in his 5-year tenure with the Mavs. He was 22 and 18 in the playoffs, including a trip to the Western Conference Finals in 22 and the NBA Finals in 24. So, I mean, we all know about the Luka Doncic trade for a package headlined by Anthony Davis a year ago. It was a disastrous deal that led to Harrison's firing 8 months later. No shocker. Just surprised it took so long. But Kidd insisted he wasn't aware of the deal until the 11th hour, doubling down that explanation in early April after minority owner Mark Cuban appeared on a podcast and accused Kidd of being directly involved in the decision to trade Doncic. Kidd's frustration with Doncic's frequent conditioning issues was well known throughout the organization. But Doncic, despite the conditioning issues, still got his team to win. So, but Dallas got Cooper Flag, and you know how the NBA, they do their lottery behind closed doors, where the NHL, they have theirs right there on stage. Something you will never see in the NBA. But so it does look like Jason Kidd didn't get what he wanted, and probably, and we don't know what went on behind the scenes. He didn't get what he wanted. And he said, "See ya." So I'm guessing that's what happened. But we're probably, I'm sure there's somebody. I'm sure Dallas radio is saying something totally different right now, which is fine. But but the one thing is, never burn a bridge. And who knows, you might have seen a burnt bridge here. But whatever it is, he's out in Dallas, still getting paid $40 million. But Dallas could say, well, he's under contract with us, even though he's not our coach anymore. You can't hire him. It's kind of like what the Golden Knights are doing with Bruce Cassidy right now, the former head coach. Like, no, you're not. probably, especially if it's a Western Conference team with Vegas, I'm sure it'll probably be, you know, oh, well, you want to talk to the Washington Wizards? Yeah, they're a crap team. Go ahead, talk to them. Oh, you want to talk to the Utah Jazz? Oh, not in a million years. They're a West Coast. They're a Western Conference team. No, we're not dealing with you 5 times a year, and then on top of that, possibly playing you in another 7 games in the playoffs. No, we'll play you in. We'll let you talk to an Eastern Conference team. You know, that's probably. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but that is the case with that. Um, so I'll be interested in seeing what they do with everything with that. So. Um, just trying to do one thing here and it's not cooperating. There we go. All right. So I saw this today, and and here's the thing. A lot of times people don't know how to keep themselves out of trouble. And apparently that's the case with Rashee Rice. Now, I do have questions about this as well. I don't know if this is something that is, I don't know if this is something that's, I don't know if this was something that was a drug test that was administered by probation or whatever, I don't know how this was figured out, but I'm sure if somebody knows, feel free to chime in. That's what the chat boxes are for. Feel free to chime in. We have fun, especially when Mike's here on Monday. But Rashee Rice was sentenced today to serve 30 days in jail after testing positive for marijuana in violation of the terms of his probation for his role in a crash that left multiple people injured on a Dallas highway 2 years ago. Now, it's unclear to me. Now, it probably, you have to submit probation, parole, whatever. That's what I'm guessing. Because the NFL, they test all the time as well. So the Texas State Attorney's Office said Tuesday that Rice was ordered to go to jail immediately as part of the original 30-day sentence for the third-degree felony of racing and causing bodily injury. You remember that from a couple years ago. So now here's the thing. Some people, they know, hey, you got to go to the parole office in 10 days, you got to be careful with everything, and but every state's different. But I think with this, even and here's the thing, the state laws for marijuana are different from state to state, that you could be in one state and they're living like it's the early 20th century. Oh my God, that's marijuana. We got to arrest you. Whereas, do you have your card? Okay, you're free to go. But also, it will impair your judgment at times. It'll impair your driving skills and all that. So you do have that as well. But the Dallas County DA said in a statement that Ms. Wright was taken into custody today in the 194th Judicial District Court for testing positive for THC and ordered to serve the 30 days he had previously been ordered to serve at a later time, starting today. So I'm interested in seeing, and we'll probably never know that he was, he took it for medicinal purposes or whatever, or maybe he's just trying to get high, whatever. But he's got to serve 30 days now. But he had deferred adjudication after pleading guilty in July, and the case would have been dismissed if he had completed the probation. So probably he had to pee in a cup for the probation office, and I'm guessing that's what would happen here. So I don't know. Do you? I admit I never. I might have had a contact high from somebody smoking it, but that was about it. I've never smoked it or anything. So, so he was placed in custody and booked in Dallas County Jail about 1:25 Eastern today. He's set to be released June 16th, meaning he's expected to miss the Chiefs' voluntary practices, which begins next week, and mandatory minicamp, which is set to end on June 11th. So, but the thing is, I highly doubt that the Chiefs will do anything about this. Now, what do you mean by that? Andy Reid has given many players chances, and we can go right to the big one, Michael Vick. And whether it's Michael Vick or somebody who's blackballed or whatever, the thing is this: did you do your time? Yes. Have you changed? Yes. Whole list of questions. And then you have to ask internally when that player is not, and player and agent or whoever are not in the room, are we sure we want to do this? Can we turn this into a good thing? All the different things that you want to do, because you're going to get backlash. And the one thing I also say is, like, for example, when we talk about, for example, Colin Kaepernick, I think in a way you're going to deal with the circus of him joining a team. Now, granted, this is about 8-10 years after, we know he's not going to get signed. And then again, before you know it, he just signed with the LA Chargers. And if that does happen, it's just strictly coincidence. I have zero intel. But the point is, you're going to have the circus in town, so to speak. Everybody in the media is going to question you. I mean, you might as well hold this press conference in the seating bowl of Lincoln Financial Field. But for example, this year with the World Cup, it's not a good idea because they're getting the turf ready for it. But you get the idea. Okay, well, we'll just move across the street to the Xfinity Mobile Arena, because everybody's going to want to go to that press conference. But then again, we have the technology where everybody will just be on Zoom. So, but I add as well, especially with the Kaepernick situation, I know we're I'm getting back to Rashee Rice, but you'll get the thing here. I'm sure. Well, if we cut him, whether it's Vic, Kaepernick, Trevor Bauer in baseball, well, was it because his talent's eroded? Was it because your other quarterbacks were just better? Was it because of something that was sport related? Or is it because, you know, you didn't want to deal with the circus anymore? You didn't want to deal with this. You didn't want to deal with that. Because in some regards, dealing with what you're dealing with after you make the final decision on the person, sometimes even that will be different because there's a lot of people out there who will come after a team because you let go Trevor Bauer, you let go Michael Vick, you let go Colin Kaepernick, or anybody else who's been blackballed, so to speak. And there's going to be a bunch of people that said, well, they got rid of him because he's a sexual offender, even though Trevor Bauer never did. Oh, you did it because he's black because it's Colin Kaepernick. Oh, you did it because, you know, Michael Vick killed dogs. And the thing is, there's a lot of people out there who don't even follow the sport that'll have an opinion on it because they'll hear Trevor Bauer, for example, oh, he had those sexual assault cases, or whatever, however you correctly want to term it. So whatever you want to term it, we will. You get to Colin Kaepernick, oh yeah, they let him go because he's black. No other reasons. Could it be his? Now, I have my opinion on the whole Colin Kaepernick thing. I think he should have opted into the contract and made San Francisco get rid of him. Then everybody would have been behind him. But then with Michael Vick, no, it wasn't because of the dogs. It's because we just have 2 or 3 better quarterbacks right now. So nobody, even if you have this press conference, you say, even if it's worthy of a press conference, even if it's just a press release, you would do that. But Andy Reid, when he was head coach of the Eagles, he was one of the first to do the second chance thing. And he's done it quite a few times. So I think you will see him back with the team when training camp starts. I'm sure they're going to have another discussion with him when he gets out of jail, but and I'm sure the NFL has now said, all right, well, you're on step 1 of the drug testing program. Even and the thing is, I don't even know what they test for anymore other than PEDs. Do you test for marijuana in the NFL? What, and that's the thing. I don't necessarily know every nook and cranny of a collective bargaining agreement. That was the thing with me being a union steward. Okay, well, I don't know when I would say, well, let me get back to you. Let me look at this. Let me research it, and I can go from there. Oh, no, you got to give me an answer right now. That's probably why the other guy who was on the floor above me at my old job was probably feeding the people in my office the biggest load of shit burgers you ever had because, oh yeah, I can win this. The thing is, I was always real to my people. Hey, we may not win this step because they're just going to kick the can down the road. But we're going to go to the second step. Then we're going to go to the third step. Then we're going to go to Washington. Then we're going to go to Washington. You get the idea. So I'm sure the Chiefs won't just cut him because, and there may even be something in the collective bargain where you just can't cut somebody. Now, I know in baseball you can't just cut somebody because they were involved in domestic assault or something like that. I believe that's the case. Now, that agreement may have changed as well because I remember when Odubel Herrera had his situation in Atlantic City. I was actually listening to a podcast when I was more up to date on podcasts, and they said, well, they can't necessarily cut him right away because you have the agreement of that, which is probably an addendum to the collective bargaining agreement. So I will say this. He'll probably be back in Chiefs camp in July, and I'm sure everything will be back to normal. So the Chiefs declined to comment on the case. Rice's attorney Thomas McMurray could not be reached for a comment. NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy said, "We're aware of the report and we will decline further comment at this time." Now, other than the fact that he failed this drug test, I don't know if the NFL can discipline him solely on the 6 games he got for violating the personal conduct code. But I think that you would escalate him in the drug testing program, because I think there is a step 1, so to speak, and that step 1, you don't know that an athlete or a football player has gone on to that first step, I believe. So, and of course, if I'm wrong, feel free to let me know, and I can always research it after the fact. And then I can say, all right, guys, I got to give this to myself. And then you get to say back to me,
he's an asshole.
But, it is what it is. So, so we all know what happened. And he was suspended 6 games last season for violating the league's personal conduct policy. But it'd be interesting to see. I don't know if they can. I don't know if they can discipline him. The NFL can discipline him further because of the fact that this isn't a different case. It's the same case, and this is a ripple effect to it, I would think. But if you're familiar with the NFL, collective bargaining agreement, feel free to chime in, even after the fact. Especially if you're on my YouTube, youtube.com/Joe Quills. I will put that in the chat here on Twitch, and that's why you need to be on Twitch, because you'll get the alerts right away that I'm on. Not only will you get that, you get something like this in the chat where I can tell you, hey, This is everywhere I'm at. So that's why you should follow me. Or even subscribe. Because if you subscribe, I can get to affiliate. I get to affiliate, I can make a few bucks here and there, and I can turn it into, I can use it towards the streams and stuff like that. So, but I digress. So, um, let me find one thing here. So, Jackson Smith and Jigba. He is somebody who, from what it appears, plays the disrespect card a little too much. And maybe I'm overreacting to it because, he was upset that somebody, um, who was it? Um, Comedian Drewski butchered his name when he was named, when he won the award, February NFL Honors. I think it's the Offensive Player of the Year award that we're talking about here. So, at least this time, he's doing something about it. And of course, like I did with the one pizza shop around here that thinks that the art of the pizza box should be inside and not outside the box. Um, of course, you tend to vent and you're going to do it on social media. I'm sure Smith and Jigba has a big following. Now, the whole Drewski thing, um, I didn't watch the honor show. I guarantee you, not many people, aside for those in Seattle and those that had their players going for awards, guarantee they didn't watch it. So yeah, I can see that. But I just think this is the generation that Jackson Smith and Jigba is in. And granted, I'm Gen X, but I do it because I, like I said, 9 times out of 10, well, 8 out of 10, it's a joke. To make it 9 out of 10, add the fact that I'm completely pissed off, and 1 out of 10 is it's completely calculated, and it's rarely that 10th out of 10. But this was from Ari Mirov at My Sports Update. And I'm going to share this here so you can see what Jackson Smith and Jigba said on his Instagram. Might be better to go through. All right. Actually, I think it's better to use this. So this is on X at My Sports Update. I'm getting this from. And you will see, and Artie Mirov says, Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba received his Offensive Player of the Year trophy, but the plaque says Defensive Player of the Year. It's getting disrespectful at this point, said Smith-Njigba. Here you go.
No, I really want to expose them though. It's getting disrespectful, guys. Defense, come on, bro. One word, man.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be a little pissed off that you have me as the Defensive Player of the Year. But then again, with people like me, I turn things into jokes. Like, for example, Aaron Nola of the Phillies, Cy Young award-winning pitcher. No, not CY Cy Young. SIGH Cy Young Pitcher of the Year. But I will say this. I understand why. Offensive Player of the Year, was one of the driving forces for the Super Bowl, all that. But these mistakes do happen. Has he ever heard of Fanatics jerseys? Or a Timu jersey? Now, the Player of the Year thing kind of looks like the year is one word, but, I couldn't give a rat's ass about that. Just the fact that it has those words on there. But I just think, in a way, he's getting a little too pissy about that part. But I understand the defensive one. But I think there's a better way of handling it. Hey, NFL, I got my award, but it says defensive. Can we send it? Can we get this fixed? Get me a new one. Get me one that's correct. Because I'm just curious, and this is just me thinking aloud here. Could this be a situation where the Defensive Player of the Year got the Offensive Player of the Year trophy? Or did they pull a Fanatics and had two Defensive Player of the Year trophies and no offensives? But you get the idea. So I will say this. I understand why. You win a major award. I mean, to him, he's like the wife in A Christmas Story. It's a Christmas-like lamp. It's sex. We're in the 40s or 30s, wherever this takes place. We can't have that in our window. The father, it's a major award. So Smith-Njigba got a major award, but they messed up on it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Defensive Player of the Year, whoever that was, got the offensive trophy. I wouldn't be worried about the words "the year" being the same exact, being one word, because it looks like there's a little bit of space, but it's just me. So he sent the video, as you heard. I really want to expose them. This is getting disrespectful, guys. But so he was potentially referring to a similar gaffe in February at the honors event where his name was mispronounced multiple times by Drewski. Well, Drewski probably doesn't know jack shit about football. But I think that if you're professional enough, you say, how do you say his name? Smith and Jigba. Thank you. So then he posted a photo of himself with the caption and read, as you saw there, just keep the award at this point, leave it in the history books though. And it looks like he's turning into an NFL prima donna. But he also landed a 4-year, $168.6 million contract, remaining the highest paid wide receiver in history, $42.15 million per year on average, and he gets $120 million guaranteed, both setting records for a receiver. So, yeah, he's starting to turn into a prima donna, whatever. But, you know, it is what it is. So, also, what it is this Saturday, for another edition of Also Eligible, we will be talking Churchill Downs. And they got 5 stake races on the card. I got to look at the weather here because once the storms hit tomorrow, it's pretty much going to be raining according to my trusty phone app until Monday. Actually, till Tuesday. By the way, till Tuesday in 80s band. Churchill Downs, yeah, it's going to be raining there too. So, we'll have to do some mud racing, so mud handicapping. So, but you can check that out here, twitch.tv/Joe Quills, on the Q&A racing platforms and Q&A sports channel, I should say. I probably need to fix that, but well, Q&A racing is good enough. But yeah, we're live every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Adjust accordingly for the time zone in your area, and let's have some fun on Saturday as well. So, all right, one last story here, and this is a shorter stream tonight. Probably could have gone with another story, but yeah. One thing I have to say is because I'm kind of in this boat, and I kind of cross paths with this person, but not really. But the one thing I would say is never give up on going back to school. I have 2 degrees. I'm 4 degrees away from Kevin Bacon, but I'm bummed. But seriously, you know, there's different reasons that you want to go back to school. You know, you want to get your degree. In my case, I wanted to go back, but I wanted to go back on my terms, not because my parents, well, especially my mom, because she was the educational driving force, and I could always say, well, it's because, the neighbor 2 doors away, it was an unofficial competition because their kids are getting all the awards. Why aren't you? Well, first of all, I'm not in their house, but I will say this. I went back on my terms and when I was ready to go back. And I got 2 degrees at Drexel. So it was just a matter of me doing what I wanted to do. I wasn't letting somebody else tell me how to do something. It was like, well, the tuition assistance at my job, I needed to know more about that. I needed to know more about, all these different things that came up. And then, by the way, one night I hear a commercial about Drexel Online. Okay, I'm in. So, and I purposely put in the notes an octogenarian. And I wanted to make sure I was using that correctly before I put that in the notes. And that is because, Well, the definition is anybody between the ages of 80 and 89 years old. 82-year-old sports and equality icon Billie Jean King got her Bachelor's of Art in History from Cal State Los Angeles on Monday. How cool is that? And you know me, the final story, I try to have it as a sorbet type story to make your palate, cleanse your palate from all the other BS I have here. But so she got her degree, her college degree, 65 years after she first took classes at CSLA. So she walked across the stage in her hot pink glasses and royal blue sneakers at the Shrine Auditorium with about 6,000 others in the class of 2026. Cool. Now, I will say this. She has racked up honorary degrees. She's talked at many graduations. The year I graduated from the sports management program, she spoke to the sport management program, that portion, or it was the I think it was either the undergraduates or it was the graduate program that had the commencement the day before, because mine was the first one in the morning at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. I was like, oh, I almost didn't go, but I wanted to walk because it was my way of saying I'm done with school, but I couldn't go to the one when I got my bachelor's, but I wanted to go for my master's. And you know, the day before, I'm setting up the tablet and everything, and I'm showing my mom, you know, just do this at 8:30 in the morning or whatever. You can watch it, and you know, it's on YouTube or whatever. Probably still is on YouTube, but yeah. So I ended up. I ended up getting some doctor or something at my graduation, but the afternoon session or the Friday session, because they had like 12 different sessions, because they didn't do it at Citizens Bank Park. They did it at the DAC, which is the basketball arena, which seats about 2,000 people. So Billie Jean King was the keynote speaker, or whatever the correct terminology is. And at the end, she had tennis balls. She had signed tennis balls, and she was hitting them out into the crowd. So, and probably the lesson learned here is it's never too late, whatever age you are, whatever your abilities are, go for it if you want it. Now, her black gown was accented with a gold graduation stole, personalized by a friend. One side included her initials and the letters GOAT, referring to the greatest of all time. A multicolored tennis racket was embroidered on the other side. Okay. I know you do that with the mortarboard on the graduation cap. I didn't know that. She said afterwards, "It means a lot more to me than I thought. I'm so glad I did it. My hope is that one other person will go back to school." You know, that's what you want to do. You know, you want to be an inspiration for others. I mean, you know, is she going to be doing anything with this history degree? Probably not, because she's 82 years old, but she wanted to have that satisfaction of finishing her degree. She announced 2 years ago that she would work on completing her degree at the school where her bronze statue stands outside the phys ed office, the phys ed building. She's the first member of her immediate family to graduate from college. Similar to the majority of her fellow graduates, the school is predominantly Hispanic and Latino for a student body. So, and she told the crowd, being a student athlete didn't mean I had a scholarship. Financial support was unavailable to women in 1961, even though my friends Arthur Ashe and Stan Smith were both scholarship students on the men's teams at UCLA and USC. But that was long before Title IX even. Because Title IX was what, late 70s? And she committed to working toward equality and inclusion for all, like has been for many years. We can never understand inclusion unless we've been excluded. Very true. So she was joined by student athletes and mascot, and I'm guessing she does this even when she speaks at other graduations. She hit autographed tennis balls into the crowd. I think that's cool. So she initially enrolled at the campus 5 miles east of downtown in 1961. The same year she won the first of her record-tying 20 Wimbledon titles, this one in women's doubles. And she mentioned how different it was back then versus what it is now, because now you get $500,000, she says. In 1961, I think we won a $45 gift voucher to a local store. But also, those that played in the Grand Slams, they were technically amateurs, because the Open era isn't until the late 60s. That's when the professionals played in these tournaments. So that's something to remember as well. She soon left school to pursue becoming #1 in the world. She won 35 major championships. She also had that win over Bobby Riggs, Battle of the Sexes in '73. She helped establish the current Pro Women's Tour while pushing for expanded prize money and opportunities for women. And why she went back essentially was, despite her many successes on and off the court, she had this nagging feeling about not earning her degree. She always corrected anyone assembling her biography that stated she had graduated. Because, when you're a student athlete, you go the 4 years playing for your school. Oh, he's a graduate of whatever school. I find that fair that she did that. She's trying to say, hey, just because you didn't get in 4 years doesn't mean you can't get your degree, on top of everything else that she's, like the NCAA says, sometimes you go professional in things other than sports. Life gets in the way. You get a curveball and you have to leave school for whatever reason, or you're just not paying attention, you flunk out. But Billie Jean said, don't ever say graduated, I haven't earned it yet. I was thinking today, coming over here for the first time, that I can actually say I graduated now. So yeah, you do have something like this. And, in some regards, even to someone like Billie Jean King, it means more because you went away from school, you went back to school, you did this, you did that, and you got your degree. And I'm sure she lost a lot of credits because guess what? Courses end up not now granted, I technically transferred from Holy Family, even though it was like a 10-year break. I had to request my transcript go to Drexel. They had to say, well, these ones we're taking credits for, this one we don't have any match for it, so we're not going to take it, things like that. So, but now the question I was asked at the end here, would she go for a master's degree? She said, I just turned on the news and there's Shaq walking across at LSU getting his master's. She said, I just think it's wonderful to keep learning. And, here's the thing with me, in my opinion. I'm okay with learning because I'll tell you right now, just because you're not in school, it doesn't mean you don't stop learning. I'm always a person that believes that, there's a reason why I try to do the Wordle every day. There's a reason why I do certain thought process games or whatever, because I'm always trying to learn something. I'm always trying to read something online. I'm always trying to do this. I'm always trying to do that because it's all about growing the mind. And the one thing I will also say is, I also believe that if I keep using my mind, reading, learning, taking in information, sponging that shit into my head, that's what I want to, that's why I would tell people is, just because you're out of school, it doesn't mean you don't stop learning. It's just not formal learning that you've been told that we do here with the education system. You're always learning something. And, even if you don't realize it, but yeah, so I thought that was an interesting story that I saw today, and congrats to her. I mean, it just shows that no matter how young or old you are, you can always go back to school and get your degree. And I did exactly that as well, but it didn't take me 65 years to get my degree, because I'm not even 65 years old yet. But yes. All right, so that is going to be it for this show. Just a reminder, also eligible Saturday at 10 a.m. Join me for that. But we have one more show on Thursday. That will be at 9 o'clock as well. Also, just to let you guys know ahead of time, okay? There is no show on Monday. Monday is Memorial Day here in the United States. So I'm going to take the holiday just like everybody else is. And except I'm not going to be barbecuing because I can't technically barbecue. But, we'll observe the day off, and, next week will be Tuesday and Thursday, barring anything unforeseen. Let me just check one last thing here, just in case. Okay. I was just looking in case there was anything horse racing wise with our horses in the Q&A stable. Nothing new, because I told you guys last night that Schoolyard Superman's race did not come up at Aqueduct. I think what happened was that race just didn't fill, and that's something that happens from time to time in horse racing. But I'll be live here Thursday night, 9 o'clock. We're going to be doing gaming on my own soon, and that will be on the days I don't stream the Joe Quill show and also eligible. So probably Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So, but that's it for now. Do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's do it live again Thursday night at 9 o'clock. And I'll see you guys in the winner's circle.